someone like you, someone like me who travels a bit as well, it's really important not to get so dependent on the thing that is creating the space or creating the meditation or create thing, because when it's gone, it's really hard to then do it. When I discovered that my attitude will shape my day rather than the other way around, then the question becomes, how can I have the best attitude?
If we keep holding on to something for too long, that weight gets heavier. And I just think there's something to be had to go, you know what, we can report on the things we haven't done, the reported life that we set out, or we can let it go and create something else.
Hello, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm just playing around. I've got a little foot pedal down here that's supposed to put my camera into center. And I realize I'm bouncing around and some setting isn't working.
Mm.
And I'm bashing it on the floor. You can hear it probably, but it's not doing anything.
It's
So I
always
also
the
need
current
some config.
technology, trying to make it all automated and everything. Hopefully mine just stays where it is. I'm not sure what
Too
it
much tech, mate. Trying to overcomplicate things, probably. But
Yeah.
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Although I've fallen out of my my ice bath meditative routine recently because it's found a fault, which is quite frustrating. They're coming around. To be fair, the company's been great. They're going to come and replace it and give me a new model, which is a good thing. But it means it's out of action. And I think I mentioned recently that I've gotten myself into a really good routine of having just that kind of 5 minutes mindfulness on my own in an ice bath. I've kind of lost that, and it's interesting. I found it quite interesting that when I haven't got the opportunity to sit and do nothing, I haven't been organized enough, motivated enough. I don't know, the habits aren't forming well enough to be able to continue the mindfulness for 5 minutes without the idea of getting in the ice bath at the same time. So I'm still trying to be good about my daily mindset practice. How will I create myself today? How will I create others today? But they're kind of affirmations for myself, and I haven't been living up to that practice. So I thought today, maybe we can do a bit of a reset. Maybe you guys, my co-host, can help me get back into the routine of doing that I know is really good for me, even when I haven't got the equipment around me that has been helping me enable that recently.
Yeah.
If you
It's
call it that.
interesting actually. You talk about that. I was at the Health Optimization Summit a couple of weeks ago and I was listening to Ben Greenfield. So Ben Greenfield's quite a well-known podcaster, biohacker, etc. Um, and whilst, a lot of the information was, standard stuff that I might know, one of the things he did say, which I also agree with and echo, is he was talking about his practices, a little bit of his mindful practices, but he was saying how it's important not to, sometimes people are, they do the meditation with the Muse band or this other gadget or all these things. But then the challenge is that when you go away, let's say you're on hotels or he travels a lot, you need to be able to meditate on the grotty carpet of the hotel room or something like that. Now, in your case, what I think is with the ice bath, you've got a very strong visual anchor for stepping in and doing that 5 minutes. And so because that's now not there, it's easy for you to not have a place, as it were. So for me, I have a place for meditation, and I do other things there as well, but it's kind of anchored. I have like a meditation cushion I pop out, and I think that's part of it, is that you haven't got that physical anchor. I think for you as well, because once you're in the ice bath, you're in the ice bath. You can't
There's
just pop.
nothing else I can do, right? You can't
Yeah,
really do much else but be
and you're not
present
gonna
with
pop
your own
out.
breath.
You're not
Yeah.
gonna pop out either after like just 5 seconds because you're already wet. You might as well go
And
for
you're
it.
so cold, right? You have to focus on your breathing because it's the only way you can kind of get through it. You kind of like, you have to really get into your breathing technique to make sure you can survive the cold, particularly if you're getting colder and colder. But I was reminded of the Aristotle quote you'll know already, which is, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. And I've
Mm.
realized that I'm falling short of my own excellence, well, the standards of excellence that I want to maintain because this gadget isn't in my household. It,
Mm.
I didn't have this. I've talked on the show we've done this for a couple of years now, where I've really tried to get into a regular routine of having the goals on and just chilling out and having my meditation moments. And I was always missing. I'll see it there, I'll always find something important to do. But the ice bath has given me that kind of, as you say, that moment where I want to get every day. It gives me more benefits than just the mindfulness itself and the meditation benefits. And it forces me to do nothing else but focus on my breathing and being present in that moment. And I've missed it. I've missed it. I've missed the cold. Who'd have thought? I've really missed the cold.
Well, one of the things, I think you've got a copy of the book by now, but one of the things in there when I talk about habits is this idea of forgive but don't forget. And what I mean by that, and this is when it comes to forming habits and new routines, is to forgive yourself for being less than perfect, for not doing it every single day. But just because you forgot to do it one day, right? Or you forgive yourself, but don't forget to just do it completely and just say, well, I didn't do it on Tuesday or Wednesday, so I'll just throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I think that's an important thing. But the other thing is, and the other thing I mentioned is about having a framework, but having flexibility within the framework. And so someone like you, someone like me who travels a bit as well, it's really important not to get so dependent on the thing that is creating the space or creating the meditation or
Yeah.
create thing, because when it's gone, it's really hard to then do it. So the minimal amount of stuff is probably best, because then you can, like say, the breath you can take anywhere. For me personally, I do have my audios. I used to actually meditate. I think I mentioned it before, and I do mention it in the book. But the first probably 2 years I was meditating, I was just meditating with nothing. And then for some reason I got into audios, and now for the last sort of 10 years or so, 12 years, however long it's been, I've been using audios. And it's interesting because I sometimes think, oh, I can't meditate now because I need to get my headphones, need to set things up. And occasionally I'll just try and just do it with the breath. And I go back to where I started, which is maybe 10 breaths. So rather than 15, 20 minutes, I'm doing like, I don't know, a minute, 2 minutes. And I had to do this recently because I remember what was putting me off meditating in the evening. I used to meditate twice a day, like morning and evening, and then I just went to morning. And then in the evening, I think it's because the way my headboard is on my bed and the cushion, when I sit on my cushion, it kind of pushes it into the gap, and then I'm not in a comfortable position. And so then I was just getting fed up with that, and I decided not to do it at all. So now I've reverted back to how I started 15 years ago almost with that, where I sit on the bed with my feet on the floor, and I just, after I've done a little spray of my magnesium or something, I just do my 10 breaths. And I say that's where I'm starting again, right? For the evening one anyway. The morning one is slightly different. So I think it's important to be able to have the ability to not use the devices, not use the things, and see how you can be a bit flexible with it. And maybe you go back to something really basic. So rather than, you do 15 minutes in the ice bath or 8 minutes in the ice bath, I should do 8 minutes of meditation. Maybe just say, maybe I should just do 1 minute of focused breathing.
I've you're probably right in that summation. I think I get frustrated because I judge you. We have our own sort of voices in our heads that judge us, right? We're our own worst enemy in that respect. And I remember telling a story on this show about the reported life versus a created life. So the reported life would be the two shoemakers or the two sons of a shoemaker, both sent to faraway lands where people don't wear shoes. And the first son comes back and says, "Why have you sent me here? No one wears shoes. I want to come back. I'm not going to make any money." And the second person goes, "I'm so glad you sent me here. We're going to make a fortune." And it's that I've been living, I guess, without it. It's an example of where I've been living the life of a reported life. I'm reporting what I'm seeing, but I'm not creating something for myself. It's like when you wake up in the morning, you say, "What will I create today?" You can either report on what you've got, "I'm tired, I have work," or we can be creative and I'm going to be courageous. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to make something happen today. And it's a mindset shift. But I'm frustrated because in this particular small part of my day, which is only 5 minutes, I've been reporting on the frustration rather than being creative about doing something about it. And yet
Mm.
within those 5 minutes of thought, I probably could have just sat and meditated in those 5 minutes. Instead, I've lost 5 minutes
Yeah.
scrolling and being annoyed with myself for not doing it in the first place. But
It's
there we are.
it's it's funny you said it, because like, so today I came back from, so I think I mentioned a bit off air, first day of a 5-day working week in workshops in schools. Luckily, day was fine, right? Slept really well last night. The place was only half an hour cycle. Gorgeous cycle in, where I was cycling in the park around 8 o'clock. So the sun was coming up. The leaves were getting the kind of steam off them. It was such a gorgeous morning cycle. I came back, and part of my ideal when I get back is to go and do a little bit of mobility, bit of exercise. A lot of time that doesn't happen because maybe on a day like today, I got back around 4:30. I'm thinking I'm really hungry. I've got the podcast call. I don't really want to eat after the podcast call. All these excuses. And what I decided to do was just go into the gym. And sometimes when I go into the gym to do a bit of a workout, I leave the doors open. And if my mum's around, it's, even though she's not disturbing me, there's that visual distraction. But also what I try and sometimes do is, because I'm not doing like a proper workout, like I'm not doing a spin class or anything like that. I'm just doing like mobility, stretching, etc. I try and stack things, which is the wrong thing. Like, so I might try and put a YouTube video on at the
Yeah.
same. And what I've noticed, and I noticed this many years ago, really, is that I'm just something that would take me 15 minutes takes me half an hour. It's less efficient. And so I have to get round the idea of I'm wasting time because I could be listening to something informational whilst doing this, rather than listening to the same person telling me the same stretches over and over again. But today I decided not to do that, and I just did the stretches. And not only did I get it done in the time, it's the quality of the
I was
work.
about to say the
The
quality's better. I
quality
stack a lot, right? And I kind
is
of know I'm doing it. So I have a watt bike sat in front of Netflix. I have a TV in front of me. I can watch Netflix, watch documentaries, watch whatever. Like the work, I never push myself as hard while I'm watching, series 8 of Suits. You just don't, because you want to watch a bit of the TV. You kind of end up doing more junky mile stuff. But if I
yeah,
go to a gym or I have, I'm on holiday, I'll go to a hotel. I went to a hotel this week. I'm going up to Celtic Manor on Wednesday. When I'm there and there's nothing to look at, you push and work so much harder. You think you're doing a good thing by stacking, by getting two things done at once. And there's an element that, okay, more productive in inverted commas because you're doing more, but doing more and achieving more are very different things. And
yeah,
sometimes you'd be better off putting a real effort in on the bike, getting the benefits, and then watching that show in its entirety and focusing in on it rather than missing bits than
yeah.
trying to stack. I'm a sucker for stacking. I'll
And
always
that's
try
the
and
thing.
do as many
And
things.
I sometimes try and do that in the morning, where I'll put a podcast on while I'm doing the juices and the smoothies. And when I do an early day like today, I got up at 6. I didn't leave till 8 in the end. It took me 2 hours just to, do a bit of exercise, do all this stuff. But I don't listen to anything at the moment because I'm just so much more on it, focused and
Yeah.
everything else. And I have to get over the idea of having all this information overload. And also what I found is that I think the last few months I've drifted a bit more into needing to have that input, needing to have something, which is how I was maybe 15 years ago. And I noticed that even if it's good stuff, actually, one thing I've been getting into recently that seems to work without me being too distracted is listening to Alan Watts. I don't know if you know Alan Watts.
I
There's a
don't.
kind of you love his stuff. It's great.
So you have to shout, I don't know familiar. Yeah, I'd like to say, yes, I do. I don't know. I do know that my camera's going up and down. I feel like it's making me seasick. So when I was watching it, it's got this weird bounce
Oh
thing
yeah,
going on. Like it's
talk
trying to.
about it in a minute. But yeah, Alan Watts was I guess a modern day philosopher. I think he passed away in the 70s or 80s. And I found a YouTube channel, which I'm not sure is Alan Watts speaking, but it actually sounds a lot like him. And it's just a philosopher really, in a way, modern day philosopher. And it's quite easy to listen to whilst doing other things. But and so that's okay. But most of the other stuff I realize is creating a mild level of noise and anxiety in my brain, and that I'm not able to think and focus because I'm filling the void with sound of maybe a podcast, maybe something interesting, but it's unnecessary. So yeah, the idea of trying to maximize a stack all the time is overrated, let's say. But kind of going back to your thing with, the losing meditation, the routines, and actually interesting you say the Aristotle quote, because that's actually in the second book I wrote, Working Well. Excellence is a habit. Um, it is about starting small again, I think, with new things, and also finding ways. I was thinking, I'm trying to think, what is my big core message that I share to people, and I think one of those big core messages is about how can you find things you're already doing and just tweak them a little bit to make them to
Maximize.
make to make them part of your mindful practice or part of whatever it might be. And I think last week when we spoke, had I already done that shower video? I can't remember if I'd done the
No,
shower video.
I was going to bring it up though. It's on my list to bring it up. I'm trying to stop this bouncing. Try and bring it up today because I have seen it. It's quite a long video, dude. You have quite a routine in the morning. Let's be fair. This is Harry in his swimming shorts, coming out of the shower, drying himself. It's a video to see if you want to really follow his daily routine.
I did contemplate whether I did it without the shorts and just try and blur the video somehow in that position, but I thought that was going to take way too long, and maybe someone would be able to figure out how to
You
unblur it.
couldn't find a blur big enough. That's the problem, wasn't it? There's always something showing.
So yeah. So that routine to those listening is just a bit of breath work, but not dry brushing, but like hand brushing on the skin, and I'm not sure, I came up with it a little while ago, but I find that that energizes me a lot in the morning. It also allows for the steam to remove from the room. It allows me to be dry before I even put my towel on. Towels don't get so wet, the floor
To
doesn't
be
get
honest,
wet.
mate, it's such a workout. By the end of it, it looks like you need another shower.
Well, this is
You're
part of
sweating. You're sweating with all
that.
your towel throwing and you're whacking and you're just like
Yeah,
done a
yeah.
workout.
Especially when it's cold, like it was a bit this morning, and you do the towel thing, that to me is my kind of ice bath, because that's when I'm having to focus on the breath, because it's quite cold when you're naked, especially, and you're getting that onto you. And so my point with this is that that is adding maybe a couple of minutes to my getting out the shower, if I'm honest, maybe a couple of minutes, maybe 3 minutes. But that is more efficient adding those 3 minutes there than trying to add an isolated breathing movement thing somewhere else. So my point is, when it comes to brushing my teeth, I'm brushing my teeth anyway, and so I have that rolling massage ball under my foot. Actually, I think my mum does it now as well when she brushes her teeth. So in the morning, I roll a massage ball underneath my foot for 1 minute on one foot, 1 minute on the other foot. Sometimes I'll do it with closed eyes, test the balance, all of this sorts of stuff. So my whole thing is, what can you do that you're already doing, but just in a slightly different way, so that when you don't have time to do the meditation, for me, it's the breathing in the shower is the basic thing.
Let me
You
ask
know,
a different question then, because I'm intrigued on this. My frustration for myself is the realization that I've been living aspects of my life as a reported life rather than a creative one. So rather than finding another solution, be creative and change the way that I have my morning routine, I'm reporting on the fact I'm not doing it, and that's adding to my frustration. And it, clearly, there's something I can do about it. But for whatever reason, I'm choosing not to, and I'm moaning about it, which is what a lot of us do as humans, right? It's sometimes easier to moan than to do. In real life, though, right? And with your book and everything else, it's relatively optimized for vitality. It's optimized for routine, and you've got these things set up. But when you wake up in the morning, I do like to ask myself, how will I create myself today? How will I create others today? How will I create the world today? That might sound cliche, but I want to try and have an impact every day. Or what's the point? Every day is precious. Time is precious. All those kind of things. I want to turn up today and be a better husband. I want to be today's going to be a courageous day. How am I going to show up for my colleagues? I want to show that I'm empathetic today, or whatever it might be. What positive impact can I make? The question I've got really is, if you've got, so because a lot of the stuff you talk about there is stuff that you are, I would argue, you are reporting on, because it's become so routine. It's become an atomic habit for you to do these things. Where do you leave room? Where do you leave bandwidth for the creative side, for that created life on top of, or instead of, rather, the reported life for you?
I'm not sure I fully understand. So because
Because
because you're saying,
you're already reporting on how you show up before the day started. You kind of, your routine's there. I'm going to get in the shower. I'm going to do this thing. But where do you lose space to have the creative side of today? I just want to show up and be curious. I'm going to have a real positive impact today on the world by doing this, because oft I get the impression that your day is almost mapped out, not just a day in advance, but weeks in advance, because your routines are so entrenched. It's very different to mine, which is all over the place, right? You know that you and me live our lives very differently. I don't need to show up in the same way, because my life is, a kid can throw a curveball any moment, right? They come in, and suddenly your whole day's out of whack anyway.
I'll tell you two things on that. One, that's actually probably not how things are, firstly. But secondly, one of the things I always talk about is that the beginning and end of the day are your two bookmarks of the day, or bookends of the day, that you actually have some level of control over your life, right? And so the middle of the day, you don't know what's going to happen, right? I have no idea from when I finish my little morning stuff what's really going to happen. I've got an element of control, but not really. And so for me, it's about the start and the finish more than everything else. So there is a lot of space in the day for that, I know, curveballs to happen and everything else, but it's about being set up ready for those curveballs. But also in terms of what I think you were talking about a little bit about, oh, how do I want to create the day? How do I want to show up? There's a couple of things that I might throw in there that I tend to do. One, in terms of showing up for the day, often I think I've mentioned it before, I'm reading that book, which is the
Have a great
greatest.
salesman in the world.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so there's normally like a a teaching in that. So that might be, and often I'll forget what it was when I'm reading, but like, for example, chapter 2 is always, I will greet this day with love in my heart, right? Those are me. I'll say, I love you, etc., etc. So that's already priming how I would like the day to be. The second thing, although I don't often do it on days that I'm doing workshops, but if I'm working from home, in my journal, I've developed this journal a number of years ago called the Super Journal. One of the questions in there, there's two questions, right? One is obviously what you're grateful for, but the second one is what would make today a great day. And that's usually got to be something that's within your control. So you can't just say, oh, winning the lottery, because that's not really within your control. It might be getting everything done on my to-do list. It might be, smiling more at strangers. I don't know what it might be. So there's a couple of spaces there that I might do that. But often, I don't overly think it, if I'm honest. I don't see that one is mutually exclusive to the other. I don't think that by having a routine, and like I said, my routine is super flexible, especially like, say, tomorrow, I aim to get up the same time every day, which means that today I didn't need to leave till 8, but I have the feeling that tomorrow I might need to leave by 7, but I don't want to get up at 5 or 4. So I'll probably have less of a routine. So I may not do the meditation. I may, just do the breathing in the shower, and that's it. So I'm going to have flexibility. So there's always, for me, no 2 days the same in terms of the routine at the moment. In the book, I have an ideal routine there, but that's ideal. So I think,
My favorite quote every day is that your day does not dictate your mood dictates your day. And I was trying to think, some of I wake up, the old warm side of the bed cliche, where you think, oh, I'm a bit grumpy, I'm a bit tired today. And I think, oh no, hold on. Now, if I go out with a mood like this, today is going to be a long, long day, and every day is precious. So I've got to try and flip this in my head. Feeling lives in the shadow of a thought. So if I can change my thinking, I'll change the way I feel, and I have to kind of proactively do that. But I feel like the way that we live our lives is so different. I feel like there's maybe more raw, and this could be by design. This isn't a criticism. Don't take it as one. But I think it's the way my life is a little bit more frenetic in the way that I approach things and the way that we do things. I feel
mm,
like there's more room in my space for things like spontaneity, for random things to kind of come in, and sometimes good, sometimes bad, so I can react to them. I think yours is a lot more organized and planned and thought through. And I wonder, how much space do you have for that spontaneity? How much, if something does suddenly, how did that impact your thinking? If something that isn't in that report suddenly gets you set and segues you from takes you from the left field, and you're like, ah,
okay, so you probably haven't got to that chapter yet, but in the book, when you read it, you'll see I've got a term called RAF. Okay, so not Royal Air Force, but my RAF means rules allow freedom. So just like you're proposing, that a lot of people think that by having certain structures, certain rules, certain things in place, it becomes rigid. But actually, it's completely the opposite. You actually allow way more space for spontaneity to happen when there is some level of structure in your day or in your thinking. Or it doesn't have to be like a structure in terms of your day, but there's some kind of, like, I mean, like, I might say, so a lot of people claim, like, I have a rule about food, right? That I'm not going to eat this, I'm going to do this. Here's the reality: is that I'm always in charge of the decision, right? And just because I have a certain rule in place, it doesn't mean that I never deviate from something, right? It's about having a structure, like I said, having a framework, but having flexibility within the structure. I understand what you probably think things are, where, some people who are, let's say, yeah, I don't know, like typically maybe people who are on the spectrum, right? They want a certain order and it's got to be done in a certain way, and very much like that. And I was thinking about this the other day, because I was thinking, I've never had a test, right? I'm definitely would be very surprised if I'm on a spectrum right at one end, even if it's the mildest form. But, you know, I do like to have things in a certain way sometimes. And my mom is always banging on about this. She's like, you're never going to meet someone when you like to have a thing like this, things like this. And I'm like, yes, but here's the thing. I do that when I have the opportunity to. So last week, for example, I was staying at a friend's house in Richmond because I was working near his place the next day, and I thought that would be a good way to see him, and then a good way to just go straight from Brighton to Richmond and so on. I did not have my gravity or weighted blanket. I did not have my blue light blocking glasses. I did not have a pitch black room. I'm not gonna like throw the like a spat about that. I just get on with it, right? Just gotta do it. Did I sleep as well? No. Did I have quite a tough day that day? Yes, because I didn't sleep well. But it's about being able to adapt, right? When I was traveling, I traveled for 3 months. I don't have all the things. So just because you have things that optimize you or you feel better for, like you were talking about your mood dictates your day rather than day dictates mood. This is part of my routine. So when I discovered, and I've mentioned this before, but when I discovered that fact that you talked about, how you dictate your day and how your mood is dictated by, the things that you focus on, your attention, the meaning of what you assign, and the actions you take. That's actually when I started integrating things into the morning to allow me to leave the house with the right attitude. When I like, so yesterday, for example, I was a little bit, I've got to admit, hungover. I did the least amount of steps I've ever done in my.
Wasn't expecting to hear that, buddy. Very, rarely drink ever.
I don't, but a friend of mine, the friend from Austin that I tried to connect you with,
Yeah.
he's over for like 1 or 2 days on the way to Dublin for some conference, and then another friend we met up to dinner. They wanted a bottle of wine at dinner, and I would not normally drink wine. If I do, I like to drink a natural wine anyway. This was not natural wine; it's just a horrible wine. I had one glass of that, and then we went to some cocktail place, and I had 3 cocktails. So I wasn't like, and this was over the space of like 5 hours, so I wasn't like crazy drunk. But yes, it hit me. And then yesterday, I struggled. I think I did only 2,000 steps the whole day. I was on the couch most of the day. I had a little nap. I did manage to go to a reformer Pilates class, but then I had to come back and sleep for an hour. And it was just a very much of a deviation from the norm. But my point with all this was that actually, when I discovered that my attitude will shape my day rather than the other way around, then the question becomes, how can I have the best attitude? So yesterday morning, for example, I didn't want to do any exercise. I just went on my phone. I just was doing that sort of stuff. That created a certain feeling in me. If I get up in the morning and I have the news on, which I don't, but my mum likes to have the news on. She doesn't have it on when I'm in the house, but often she'll have the news on. That is going to create a very different Harry walking out the door than if I'm, say, listening to nothing or listening to classical music or listening to Alan Watts.
Magic FM, party time,
Uh,
80s classics, Brim Bum.
I can't really take the radio. I sometimes try to listen to radio in the car when I go to the dump to drop things off, and the dump is
You're
like,
right. It's the outside noise can influence how you feel. And if you want negative news at the start of your day,
well, I mean, well, firstly, going back to Magic Radio or radio in general, there's too many adverts. So I'm always turning off the radio during the advert. So it's off most of the time, so just leave it off. But news, again, another acronym that you'll come across in my book, I call never ending wasted stress. And that's what I find it is. And so it's not that I never get the news, although I did go 5 years without doing any news. I do get the news, but it's about when you place it into your day.
yesterday, you'll be pleased. I found a new gadget, which I'm absolutely in love with, and it's going to help me eat healthily in a different way, which I'll mention in a minute. I wasn't going to mention it today, but it's going to be semi-relevant, so I'll bring it up. Really good. I've had this gadget, which I'll mention in a moment, since Christmas for a gift from Lucy. Never used it. Meant to use it, but I've got a big manual, and like, don't know what to use it for, and I'll get to that in a moment. But yesterday, I decided to create a little bit of an experience for my. It could be good or bad experience for my wife and my daughter. I thought I'd do a tasting menu. So I do like 7 plates of food, all moving plates, different things, ask what they liked, their favorite foods that they wanted to eat. And I thought I'm going to use all the little gadgets I've got in my kitchen. So I used the cloche, like smoker, I used the sous vide, I used the ice cream maker, I used every little, the espuma foam, all the different siphon, all the different things I've got to try and create a kind of a MasterChef's type, my level meal. It was fun. It was a good thing to do. One of those things on there, and I'll go back to what I was thinking in a minute, was a dehydrator. That's the gift I got. I love it. Oh my God. I made like proper homemade sweet potato crisps, carrot crisps. I did grapes into these little roses. The crisps are amazing and they're completely healthy. Nothing on it. It's just literally sweet potato dehydrated, and they're really, really good. Like, I don't think we need to buy crisps ever again. I've already got it working downstairs with a whole new 5 racks of crisps now. I'm going to put them in a bag. We're going to do a snack because they're health-free. It's just, okay, taking some of the moisture out, but it's much better than a bag of Rukas. So anyway, I've discovered that, which is really exciting. But what was interesting is I set myself a time frame yesterday to get this done in my head, greatest will in the world. I thought I'll have this done, finished started at 1 o'clock, gives me 5 hours, finish at 6, go to the gym, do my workout, watch a bit of the football, come back, have dinner at 7:30 done. course, it doesn't happen. Kitchen's a bomb site. 6 comes by. I've still got 3 courses to make. And I like they have those, we've talked about it before, the cause of all problems. There's a parable where a Zen master holds a glass of water and he says to the people that are there to see him, what happens if I hold this glass of water for an hour? And they say, well, then if I hold it for a day, of course, it gets heavier and heavier. Nothing's actually changed except for the weight he's carrying, which obviously gets worse. But it's the same in our minds. If we carry this weight, it gets worse and worse. I'd say this because I had a moment in my own thinking of going, if I've done this to have a really, really experience in the evening with my family, hopefully show off a little bit, have a bit of a practice with what I'm doing and whatever. But if I make the fact I've now missed my gym window a thing, and I carry that into dinner, it's going to be a crap dinner. I'm going to be frustrated for the rest of the time. I know my day hasn't quite worked out as I planned it for. I had to kind of just let it go and go, I'm not going to make the gym today. And not only that, I'm going to actually eat loads of really, not unhealthy because it's pretty good, but I don't know, extravagant foods, which, I'm grateful. We had finished off with brownie and sticky toffee pudding and all these different things. And I really wanted to do the gym for that, but we'll have to just let it go. And it was kind of a moment for me where my routine was broken and gone. And it was fine. I missed the football, I missed the gym, but I had an amazing evening with my family. We also drank cocktails. We did some old fashions, we did some wine, woke up with a similar kind of head to you this morning. But I do like that parable, the idea that if we keep holding on to something for too long, that weight gets heavier and heavier. And we get peeved with ourselves for not doing that thing. Oh, I said today I'd get that project done. I haven't. And now you bring it home to your family. Go, oh, how was your day? Well, I didn't get this thing done. And I said that I would. And we carry it into the following day. And now I've got to do it again, but now I can't get. And I just think there's something to be had to go, you know what? We can report on the things we haven't done, the reported life that we set out, or we can let it go and create something else. And it's so easy in theory, but so much harder sometimes in practice. So I was really proud of myself because usually I would get frustrated, but I could not let that come in and ruin an evening I spent 5 hours preparing for because I didn't make an hour-long workout. I was like, "You know what? Let it go." And I had a really good night.
I think that's a big point. I always think uh, Frozen. I'm thinking of that classic, like Disney Frozen. Let it go, that song.
Yeah, let it go.
And sometimes I say that to people instead of saying the word "let it go." I say "frozen," like I was saying that, just let it go. But one of the things that to me, and this was happening the other day as well. One of the questions I've got several questions on the back of my journal. I'm not sure where my journal is right now, but on the back of my journal, one of the questions I've got is, what's the best use of my time right now? So let's say, you wanted to be at the gym at 6, but now it's like 6:20 and you've finished your stuff, which you hadn't. You were still doing the stuff, but you think, oh, now I don't have that hour that I can do. I've lost the hour. I've lost the time. It's all gone crazy. You just think, okay, I've got 40 minutes. What's the best use of my time right now? So this is actually what I was thinking earlier today when I was waiting for you to come on the call, and I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm not sure if you saw my message where I said, oh, we can start at 6:15 if you want. So I still thought we were starting at 6, and then it
I know
was,
I saw 6:15, but I got it at 6:19, didn't I? I have another podcast overrun. I did message
yeah.
you back. Maybe you haven't got it. Maybe in
I
Do Not
know,
Disturb,
but
mate.
the point is, I was thinking, oh, originally I was thinking, like, if I'd known it was going to be 6:15 or 6:19 or something, then I would have eaten dinner at 6. But then I thought to myself, okay, and then I finished. I had to cut my little mobility thing short because I wanted to make sure I was ready for 6. And I thought, okay, well, now I'm waiting for Nick, and I don't want to leave the room. So what's the best use of my time right now? And then I thought to myself, okay, so I will leave the screen on. I think I messaged you saying I'm going to put you on mute and put me on mute and put my camera off. But then I finished off the gym stuff, but not in the gym, but in this office as best I could. And that was the best use of my time there. So I didn't feel like I had, wasted 15 minutes or whatever.
That's
So,
good. It's good because I
so
didn't see the messages. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb because I'm on a podcast
yeah, I
usually
know,
before,
I know.
so I'll turn it off and I'll get them with
So
coming
that's
in.
the point, is that a question is like, what's the best use of my time right now? So you let it go, right? The thing hasn't gone the way that you wanted it to go, and you let it go and you think about, okay, what's the best use of my time right now, or whatever it is. But the other thing I wanted to say when it came to, you know, developing these routines or developing these things that you think is that, and I've said this before, I think in the beginning, when you're doing something new, it is quite important to have a little bit more structure and rigidness to it, because you're trying to build something in, right? That it wasn't previously there.
Yeah.
Then when you get to be like really proficient with it, right? Let's say you've been meditating for like 10 years and you've been doing it daily, whatever. You're going to have maybe more flexibility, and it's not going to impact you in the same way. So I think that it's like a pendulum, right? At some point, like when I was maybe starting out with my dietary change, so I was pretty much pendulum swung to the one way. And then now it's settled a little bit more in the middle, and I have a bit more flexibility. I have maybe a bit of this, which I wouldn't have done like a few years ago, a bit of that, whatever. It may change again, right, depending on certain things in my body, but the big thing is to allow that flexibility in, but still have that framework, and then forgive but don't forget, as I said. So you forgive yourself for not doing the thing, but you don't forget entirely about wanting to do that thing. And then you ask yourself, what's the best use of my time right now? All right, once you've let it all go.
I think it's a good point. You mentioned the word habits, and like, I don't know. Say it was 8 weeks. You'll know more to actually form a habit. I read Atomic Habits a while ago. It's in there, but we'll go back to that in a minute. I think there's an interesting exercise that if you were listening to this now, so if you're a listener on this, listening, tuning into me and Harry, and you just look back 3 years from now, so you fast forward 3 years and you're looking back, and let's say they were the worst 3 years of your life. So we're now in 2020, well, we're 2028, and you realize next 3 years are the worst years of your life. There may be unhealthy relationships, maybe limiting beliefs, fear of success, poor habits is often one of them. The question I would ask is, what are the habits that held you back most in those 3 years? Because sometimes we do a lot of things out of routine and we don't necessarily know if they're still serving us. We've just got into that routine and we think it's right. We often do it without questioning it. It's a bit like even the gym yesterday. I didn't like it. There was a question of going, well, I'm not actually training for anything right now. Well, no races on the horizon. It's just a routine on a Sunday when the football's on because it means I can do that stacking. And I'm not going to be watching football in front of the telly. I'll make sure I'm doing something. It was just a habit piece. It was easy for me to let it go. But I had to kind of have that conversation with myself. It's almost like just because it's what I do every Sunday doesn't mean I have to keep doing it. Like it's not necessarily a habit that's serving me today. I can let it go. I think a lot of us hold on to things because out of routine, and sometimes they can be quite much bigger things in a workout. They can be poor relationships. You end up muted. You're in these places you don't really know how you got there. You just let these things go by, go by, go by, and suddenly you realize you're not where you thought you'd be, and it's your whole life's gone by or 5 years has gone by, and then you have to reflect back and go, you know what, I could have done something. It was just habit. I got used to feeling this way. I got used to being treated that way. I got used to that being the way that I just felt, thinking that became the new normal. We have a new normal all the time. But often the new normal is negative. We can make the new normal really positive. We've just got to be able to identify some of those habits that are serving us or aren't serving us. And that's where that creative life comes in.
I
What do I
think
want to create for myself? How can I get there?
it's about creating space to allow that reflection to happen. Because I think the
Yeah, for
challenge
sure.
for a lot of people is life is a million miles an hour, right? You might have a job, a second job, kids, long commute. There isn't time and space to actually sit and think about these questions a lot of the time. I often find that when I go to an event or a personal development event, there may be people there that is literally the first time. Maybe they're new to that personal development world or that kind of routine of going to events, and it's the first time they're able to sit and actually think about their life. And I sometimes joke that most people spend longer planning a party, i.e., their wedding, than they do planning their life. Right? They spend months planning one day, but won't spend days to plan the months of the year
I
or
have it
something.
in recruitment, right? With CVs. The CV is arguably the most important document you'll ever create for yourself. And if all spend 5 minutes, get GPT to write it, and wonder why they don't get jobs, and you think, this is your whole story. And if you're not going to put the time in to argue a really, really important document of what you stand for, what you've done, what do you expect? Why cut a corner on such an important element? It's madness when you think about it. Then why would you spend more time planning a wedding than your life when your life is, you know, one day over, whatever?
Yeah, and
Right.
it's we're kind of guilty of that. I'm guilty of that sometimes as well. I feel like you do have to sit down and have the time for it. A friend of mine actually years ago, we did a 1 day intensive. He wanted to hire me for the day, and we did everything like goals, values, a bunch of things. And he knows what he's doing. He's done this stuff before himself, but again, he wants to do another day soon. We've been trying to pencil it in. because sometimes you just need to be in that different environment. You need to be with a coach or someone to guide you through the process that you already might know yourself. I'm the same, right? Sometimes I don't think I've updated the goal thing for a while now, but you sometimes need to be taken out of a space just so you can reflect on the thing that you need to reflect on. And I think I feel like this when I have busy weeks like I'm about to have, where for me it's about maintaining like my health for the week. So that means making sure I'm in bed on time, making sure I'm eating well, all that. So the other stuff isn't going to really come into it. In fact, actually, that reminds me, I set a goal of putting a post a day every weekday, whilst at least for the first month or so that my books come out. So I'm in week 3 now, and I haven't done it today actually. So I'm going to do that one
There
when
you
we
go. Straight after this call, buddy. Off you go.
get off. It's going to be, I
Well,
think,
well, there are
gratitude
sometimes
as well.
when
So
I'm working with clients on the coaching side, and I think you can download this for free, or I've sent it up before, it'll be on my website. But an energy audit. We talked about energy audits before, the things that drain us and the things that energize us. The one energy audit that I give clients, you can have one of them is people, the people that energize you, the people that drain you, the places, there are places in the world where you just feel energized, where you don't, whatever. One of those is habits as well. And often we don't think about the habits that drain us. We do them because they become habits and we don't realize that they've become such a drain on our energy levels. And actually, conversely, if you do a habit that really energizes you, how much impact that can have on you as well. So sometimes it's good, as you say, you need that time to reflect, that time to step back. So Michael Neal always says, the lamppost metaphor I've talked about before. You spend 30 minutes talking to a lamppost every day, it'd be, the human race would be a lot better if everyone did that. But imagine, in your instance, when you said someone's coming to see you, how much more powerful it can be when you've got someone on the other end of it, like a coach or a guide. But we don't have that we'll give ourselves that much time to sit back and reflect.
it's
What is
hard
it that
to do.
I want
One
to
of the
change?
things
What
that
do I get to?
I realized a little while ago that I have somehow let drop a little bit is a walk around the park, and I'm not sure. I think that's partly because when I'm out and about, like say today, I mean, I cycled to the place I was at, but I'm actually at 16,000 steps. I tend to do a lot of steps when I'm working. And the other day, I think I did like 30,000 around town, but I don't remember. I used to do like a daily walk around the local park. And I think that's maybe I was working more from home back then. And now when I'm not working in workshops, I tend to be in London, in Brighton. So I do the walk along the park, along the beach, I guess. But that really gave me that time to contemplate and think. And sometimes I would have music on or a podcast. Sometimes I would have nothing and I would just daydream. And I do a lot of this daydreaming or visioning or whatever you want to call it, in that space, because it allows me to be in nature, allows me to be by myself. I have the phone on airplane mode, whatever it might be. But that's dropped for the whole summer, actually.
It's funny because I think, was it maybe 12, 15 episodes ago, I said that me and my wife had started a habit of walking after dinner,
Yeah,
just around.
yeah, you did.
Well, we're not doing it every day. We're still doing it, but we're falling a little bit out of that routine. It's a healthy routine. We do it now once, maybe we're doing it every day. It's probably once or twice a week, but
Yeah,
I'll reflect now because if we're not careful, that become no times a week because you go back to your old, the root of water, what's easy, and you just forget. It's easy to sit in front of the telly, but actually, this has motivated me to go back to it because we're really getting lots out of it. It was really healthy. It was good. We could be connected. My recent deliberate habit thing doing is I'm deliberately leaving my phone in random places in the house. I've got to remember where I've left it, which is a problem. I'm trying not to always have it with me. I'm trying to get more used to it just not being on my person and getting familiar with it. I'm in the living room, the phone's in the kitchen, it's okay. The news, like baby steps here to just kind of just getting myself away from the device that manages too much of my life. And it's been all right. It's been good. It's been good. At least you're like, well, where's your phone? I'm like, believe it or not, and I feel like I've won a prize. I'm like, it's downstairs, and I know it's there, and I've deliberately left it down there for a reason, so I can be present with right now. And
exactly.
I shouldn't need to. Well, I don't add the last bit of
Exactly.
lines. It's
I
sound.
sometimes do the same. I might stick it in between the cushions in the sofa or something like that, especially on a day where I feel like I can gravitate to it too much. I'll be like, okay, I'll sit down the sofa. I'll put it somewhere I can't remember. Now, my challenge, of course, is that my phone, if it's not on airplane mode, it's on silent anyway. So there's no way of me ever ringing it. and find
And
it.
what my bad point is don't do the bit I did at the end, which is expect any kind of applause from your partner for leaving it. Hey, I won the applause. I'm left downstairs. Well done, me. And she's like, I don't care. That's where it should be.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
your like. Don't give me that comment. And expect me to give you brownie points. But for me, it's a big achievement. I accept. Well, quite so big from the other way around.
Well,
But
she does. I mean, like, people do well with positive reinforcement a lot of the time. So actually, by commending you for that, hopefully you do it more and more. Well,
maybe I'll bring that one up. Actually, on that note, it is Coco, our little
yeah,
baby well, baby. She's 3 years old now. Dashan's birthday today, and my kids are downstairs ready to give her some gifts. So I'm gonna end the call a bit earlier today, if that's all right, if our listeners don't mind, and we're going to celebrate our little doggy's birthday and be around for the kiddies while they celebrate that. I've just heard my daughter come home from college, so um, I think it'd be a good conversation. Reported life, created life, good habits, bad habits. Just be mindful. I think if you're listening to this, take a moment to step back and reflect on what your habits are. Are you living a reported life? Are you really creating something for yourself? Are you following bad habits when they could be good? They let them sit in your subconscious. What are you holding? If you think about a glass of water, what are you holding now? You've been holding for ages. It's getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And can you let it go? But and if you're not sure about any of those things, get Harry's book and find all his little,
so think about where you can in
acronyms.
your life integrate something beneficial in, right? Like we talked about the shower, we talked about the toothbrushing. I think that's for me where people are missing a big trick is that there are so many things that we're having to do any day anyway, like drive a car. Like I was talked about before, coming into the front door, you put the key in the door. Just take a moment, pause, right, and talk about and feel about how do you want to enter your house at the end of the day, right? Do you want to carry all the stresses from work, or do you want to leave them in the porch and be there for your family? So there's just these
Yeah.
little moments of time where you can integrate these things into your life, and I think that is probably more important than beating yourself up by saying, "Oh, right, I should be meditating 10 minutes a day," or "I haven't got my ice bath and I should be meditating." Yeah, it's just like, okay, that's one thing, but let's just find easy wins. Let's find
Yeah,
easy.
yeah, and be kind to yourself. Don't give yourself a hard time, as I've been doing. But yeah, it's been good. Harry, my pleasure. Really good to see you. I enjoyed your video on the shower. So if everyone hasn't checked it out, go to Instagram,
Yeah.
type in Harry Kalymnios shower or
Well,
the Thought
yeah,
Gym
go to
shower.
Board Gym, and then it's one of the reels. I think it's one of the reels on there.
You'll find it in there. It's
It's
once all I'll say is once you see it, you can't unsee it, especially the last bit when he gets his shorts and flaps out the rest of the water at the end. It's there for all to see.
oh,
Enjoy on that moment. Harry, I will see you next week. And listeners, please remember to
thank you.
subscribe, follow, share the episode with your colleagues and friends if you've enjoyed it. We'd love to hear from you. You can find us on Instagram as well, which is the underscore mindful part, mindful underscore pass podcast or something along those lines. You'll find it.
Yeah, that's it. All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Bye.